All right, two Sorensens, one Bond, and a Caution are walking into a room. What do you get? You get this Digging Deeper podcast.
Wow.
All right. Hey, we're going to play a quick game. One of these things is not like the other. Three of us in this room are worship leaders. One person is not. Who is it? Well, if you go to River Valley, you're probably going to know pretty quickly I have no singing capabilities whatsoever. So, audience, I'm excited.
That's not totally true, by the way. You can sing.
I mean, I can physically sing. I cannot sing well. Like, I can make noises come out of my mouth that sound musical, but like trash can falling down a stairs musical, not other way around. All that to say, very
Do we want to define what musical is, or
Oh man,
super excited about this podcast,
that was
listeners.
unforeseen.
run it back around?
We got a lot happening today, a lot going on.
This is going to be a riot.
Oh, this is going to be good. We are unpacking how we feel about certain songs. We're unpacking just the mind of a worship leader. I have three of our worship leaders here at River Valley with us. To my left, you probably are familiar with Michael Bond. Michael, how are you today?
Doing good, Tim.
He's doing good.
And I like your shirt. You're in the festive spirit.
Yes.
Next to our Christmas tree, you match the balls ornaments.
Right, yeah. So if, yeah, I like it. I actually didn't even
You look
do that.
great, bro.
So, cool. Well, to my right, we have Andrew Costner, who leads worship out at our Redwood campus. Andrew, how are you?
I'm well, Tim, and I like your pants. Because
Okay.
why not? Michael
All right.
started it. It's his fault.
Like my shirt matches the ornaments, my pants match the sky, so
Yeah, dude.
it's going well. So, and to my far right, my better half, Rachel Sorensen, leads worship out at Rogue River with us. Rachel, what part of my attire do you like, and how are you?
Wow. So loaded. I just love all of you. But I'm doing good. And I just want to give a shout out to Natalie. She is babysitting our daughter, Clara, so we can be here right now.
Yes.
And I think it's her first babysitting gig, maybe?
No, I mean she's watched kids before.
Home group,
She's
that
a
kind
pro.
of.
Oh, she's a pro.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, she's a pro. Not even
I
worried.
believe in you, Natalie.
We're actually gonna go get Claire, and Claire's gonna be like, "Nah, I'm good. Like, go do another podcast or something." Well, we're here. We have a lot of questions, and so the first thing I want to get to, Andrew, you lead worship out at Redwood. However, you team taught with Tyler this weekend, correct?
I did.
All right, and it went well.
It went very well. Yeah.
Cool. So my first question to you is compare and contrast. What is it like being up there teaching as opposed to being up there leading worship? Which one did you? Well, I don't know if I can say which one do you like more, but
I try to kind of do the same kind of approach as you would a sermon with a worship set. So you want to kind of introduce and then set your main theme and then expand upon that theme. So it's tricky though, because songs, some people catch it and some people don't. So it's nice in a sermon to be able to, did you get that? Let's try it again. Here it is again. Did you miss that? You know, but it was a lot of fun. It was really great. I super enjoyed, and digging in to study a passage to teach it is a totally different thing than studying it to study it. I found out. So that was really encouraged by that passage.
okay. So your guitar didn't show up in the teaching at all.
It didn't
That would have been cool, maybe.
just show up, like float in from space.
Yeah, that also would have been cool.
That would have been
a little
really
distracting, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Was it nice to just like participate in the worship?
I kept feeling like I forgot something. I
Yeah.
got in the car and there was no cases, and it was weird. It was actually kind of uncomfortable in that way. I just
okay.
felt like I wasn't ready, you
Yeah.
know?
All right. Well, big loaded question to start it off. You guys are worship leaders. You all have been leading worship for a long time. What is your personal favorite worship song, and maybe even a quick why to it? Rach, let's start with you.
Wow. Yeah, I find that, and maybe like you too, also like different songs for different seasons of life, or you can hear a song and it maybe brings you back to a moment you had with the Lord or an encounter you had with the Holy Spirit. But for me, currently right now, it's goodness of God. I mean, even being here sitting in this room is because of God's goodness and his faithfulness to me.
Amen.
And, gosh, I told myself I was going to get choked up, but that song was like playing in the hospital, like right after I had Clara. And I just see the Lord's goodness all over my life right now. Even in the things that don't maybe initially appear so good, I can see God's goodness and faithfulness. So that's one of those songs for me where just strikes a special spot.
All right. Thank you. Andrew?
How Great Thou Art has to be my all-time go-to. That's each verse is a different side of truth of God, and then the chorus is just the most perfect response of worship to that truth. And it's every time you're going to worship, no matter where you are.
Okay. For me, Nothing But the Blood, probably all-time favorite. Just such a simple, powerful reminder of the gospel every time. I think I will stop whatever I'm doing whenever I hear that and meditate on it. So that's mine. Michael, what about you?
Yeah, for me, different songs represent different seasons of life. And right now, there's a song that was put out by Elevation Church called Worthy. And it's just really blessing me. It's simple, powerful chorus. It says, "Worthy is your name, Jesus. You deserve the praise. Worthy is your name." And they just kind of repeat that. And it's one of those statements, almost like singing How Great Thou Art. It's like, yeah, can't argue with that. Mm-hmm. And for me, and like goodness of God, all my life you've been faithful. All my life you've been so, so good. I think even whenever you poll a group of people and ask them what their favorite songs are, there are these themes that you go, wow, the undeniable truths of God tend to be the most popular songs that stand the test of time because, regardless of whether you're having a good day or a bad day, you go, yeah, I can't not say that God's good. I can't not say that he is great. I cannot say that he's not worthy. He is. And to align with those scriptural truths is so powerful. I think that's why we see our congregations respond, is because you have to get behind that, because it's you just know in the core of who you are, it's truth.
Yeah, and Rach and I were kind of talking about this last night, to where almost asking the "what's your favorite worship song of all time" might almost be an unfair question, because, as you said, certain songs are going to hit you in different seasons, and that's totally okay. But I think just as I want to, for the audience, get in the mind of a worship leader, that's a fascinating question. Ask what a worship leader's favorite song is, because you guys lead the congregation in so many. So continuing that, I'm going to ask you guys all a threefold question. So I want to know, why did you become a worship leader? And audience, I was kind of unpacking this with them earlier. It's almost the how, but I don't necessarily want to know the logistical how. I want to know, how the Lord really led you to where you're at as a worship leader. So why you became a worship leader, one of your favorite things about leading church, family, and worship, and then maybe one of the most challenging things about being a worship leader. So I want to put that on the table for all of you guys. You guys can answer all three of them. You can answer one of them. Who wants to go first?
Age before beauty, Michael. Come on.
That's not
beauty was Rachel.
That's not caring. No, it's like this is a whole podcast of its own for us to process through all this. So I first started leading worship when I was in high school. There was a need in our youth group, and I just started grabbing a guitar. I've been singing since I was, young, super small, but didn't always play the guitar. So grabbed a guitar and just started pouring my heart out to the Lord. So that's when. Why, I think, was partly because there's a need. But I think for any worship leader, you'd ask, when did you become a worship leader? The other question that comes first is, when did you become a worshiper? Because you can't really lead someone to worship if you don't choose to be a worshiper yourself. Someone can, I'd say, almost call that a song leader. Like, anybody can get up and sing a song, grab an instrument, but it doesn't mean that that's where they're coming from. So for me, grew up in a musical family, grew up in a church that was passionate about worship, had a lot of really gifted worship leaders that I just sat under their ministry. And so my heart has always been soft to the Lord for worship and just to connect with him in that way. So it's always been a very, very high value for me. I never thought I would do occupationally what I do now. Like, I never thought this would be such a huge role in my life and theme in my life, but God had his plans, but I can look back now and go, okay, this is who you made me to be from the beginning.
Very cool. What about the couch over here?
I'll take it, Rachel. We'll let beauty go last.
Thank you.
Good save.
Yeah, hey, I became a worship leader out of serving as an instrumentalist. It was definitely kind of one of those "when did you become a worshiper" moments, where I had a season of health issues in my life that were severe. And kind of God really used that season in my life to purge me of a lot of ego and pride and kind of things that also are always a dangerous space for musicians. And that kind of emptying of myself then came back after getting healthy again and being a worshiper. And then from that, the need at Redwood and Michael came calling, and I responded to that call. And I absolutely love doing it. It is my Sunday morning is what I look forward to. I work a 9-to-5 job, but it's inconsequential. Like life happens at church, you know?
I really thought we were going to get a "I called, you answered" song excerpt from me on that one, but I guess
It's not too late.
all right. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And Rach, what about you?
Yeah, so I think much like Michael, there was a need at CAD. I think back to when I was serving in the worship team in high school, but it was really because someone saw something and kind of called it out in me. I remember Evan Daggett was like, "You should join worship team. You know, you like music. You know, that could be a really cool fit for you and a good way to serve." And so I look back on that and think how instrumental that simple, like, you can do it or you should give it a shot was, like, noticing that. And I think of the God Space series that we did, just noticing people and, you know, calling out people's gifts and what they can do and how they can serve. And so that's really, I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then from there, I would say CAD is really where I got plugged into doing it. And just as I became a worshiper myself and fell more in love with the Lord, I just loved doing worship. I love doing musical worship. And I think of someone else, Joanne Pilcher, she kept bugging me and encouraging me. And I remember she said, you should try it on Sundays, you know, give it a shot. And I remember you and Steve Daggett doing my little audition in the auditorium. And again, I think it was that encouragement and just calling it out in me from others that made me think and realize, like, wow, like, this is awesome how the body of Christ works and how he brings people in different seasons to use their gifts. And from there was, you know, a need at a women's retreat and then a need at Rogue River, and much of you guys calling me out and calling me up to serve in this way. And so I appreciate both of you because you both have been that for me. And yeah, I think I want to be that for others. I want to notice people's gifts and call them to serve in ways, whether it's musical worship or other elements in church. So sorry, long-winded answer, but I mean, if it wasn't for Evan, I mean, seriously, like, I don't know. Or if you and Steve, I don't know what I would be doing.
Fun fact, Christmas Eve, I'm coming to a Christmas Eve service, and I hear this girl, I'm like, her voice is really beautiful. She has the voice of an angel. And I went up and talked to her, and that was that. That was the beginning of the end. It was Rachel. Really? It was the Goins Family Band and Rachel, Christmas Eve, 2008. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that is phenomenal. And I talked to her, and then that's what kicked it off. I think I asked her if she wanted to go build a rocket, and
yeah, still trying to figure that out.
I was stumbling over my words. I was like, never built the rocket, but yeah.
Pickup lines, okay.
I just remember being in CAD with Andrew, and I'm like, Andrew, there's this band Hillsong, and I don't know if anyone likes it, but let's listen to it. And you were like, yeah, Rachel, this is cool. I don't know what they're thinking. I'm like, thank you, Andrew, and Phil Wickham.
That's what Hillsong needed to really just rock it to the top.
Just remember Andrew, Brian Lucas, Brian Engel, Rachel, all together in the band. It was good times.
All right, so one more thing before we move on. Let's stay in the positive note. One of your guys' favorite things, and not the favorite because there's probably just many. One of your favorite things about leading worship. It can even be the actual moment of leading worship, or even just what it means to be a worship leader. Just one of your guys' favorite things.
I mean, one that... Oh, go ahead.
Go you two.
I was just going to say one off the top of my head. Just seeing people use their gifts for the Lord and people coming up and, you know, really stepping into their calling as a worship team. Like, I love when someone at Rogue River says, hey, you know, I don't know why God's put this on my heart, but I have a little experience and I want to try it out.
And you're like, I know why God put this on your heart.
I love that. I love people using their gifts for the glory of God. It's just one element that I love, but it's just cool to see how God brings the right people for the right things at the right time. And it's so special. So.
Yeah, I think being a worship leader is similar in some ways to being someone who's a chef or a foodie who just loves to cook, but more than just loves to cook for others and loves to see people enjoy the food. So to create a space in a gathering of God's people, and when you look out and you see someone, especially if you know their story and you know what they're walking through, and to see someone working things out with the Lord and finding victory in their life, and to know that you had some tiny thing to do with that, and in some way that you could give people an opportunity to basically set the table, invite them to a meal. It's like sit with the Lord for the next 20 minutes or 30 minutes or however many minutes and connect with God. And then to have someone come up to you maybe after service, and because sometimes you can see it, sometimes you don't. And then sometimes every once in a while you'll get someone that can come up and they'll give you feedback and say, hey, thank you for today. This is what God's doing in my life. That's just like monumental. You know, it's very humbling, and it's like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. I can't even fathom wanting to do anything else but this.
I think for me, my favorite thing as a leader is in those moments when I kind of stop leading and start following. There are these moments. It doesn't happen necessarily every Sunday, but it happens enough where the Holy Spirit takes over and you're just on for the ride, and you don't really know where you're going next or what's going to happen next, and whatever happens next just does, and it's always just transcendent and incredibly powerful.
One of my favorite things as somebody who is just blessed by you guys standing out is when the worship leader has the wherewithal or the understanding to step away from the mic and just kind of let the Holy Spirit move in the congregation, and just like no one's leading, no one's following, just everyone's worshiping. And at Rogue River, a small building like that where the voice just really like they lift and you can hear it. That is such a powerful moment. And it takes a special worship leader to realize like, all right, I'm stepping back. The Lord is moving, and like I'm along for the ride. That's very beautifully said. So. No, I'm excited. This is fun. That was just the first question, the first thought. I love this. Is probably gonna be one of my favorite digging deepers, being with you guys. So now I do want to get into the text a little bit, Andrew. As you got to teach, verse 23, there will come a time where followers. Let me try again. Followers. Sorry, I had fellow worshipers in my mind. Will worship in spirit and in truth. So I just want to ask you. I'm just going to give you the keys and let you run with it. What does this mean? What does this look like in our lives today?
So the idea of the Spirit, which I think is probably the most, right? Truth is really simple. Truth is the Bible. The truth of God is who God is, and that we discover by reading the Bible and reading His revelation of Himself. But the Spirit is, I think, probably best described by the greatest commandment. You love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. That, birthed out of redemption and repentance, salvation, and then that mental attention, that focus on God in the greatness that He is, not in your opinion of what He is, which gets sketchy, right? It's, again, birthed out of truth. So who is God, and who am I coming before? Understanding that, grasping that, and coming at it knowing that you have nothing to offer, right? That you are like Paul. It in the translations don't do it justice, but Paul always says a servant of Christ. But the word there, doulos, is slave. It's only ever defined as slave. So Paul, a slave of Christ, and I love that it's not me doing something to help him out. It's him telling me what he needs to get done, and I get to do it. And there's such an honor in serving the best master ever. So coming with attention, humility, and then with a pure heart. Just coming, asking for forgiveness, coming ready to be in His presence. And it's just a pretty amazing thing when all those line up, Do
you guys have anything to...
Yeah, I love John 4. It's fascinating, and the conversation Jesus has with the woman at the well. I mean, so many different layers to that, and here she is trying, as he is peering into her soul and he is trying to get to the heart of the matter, which is her heart connecting with his, she kind of keeps it on the, I'm going to say on the religious, the political, as she's talking about, well, you say we should worship here, worship there,
Very surface level, so to speak.
yeah, and she's dealing with that stuff, and he's like, no, you're missing it. I'm trying to tell you, it's supposed to get beyond that. That's where the spirit and truth comes in, because he's like, the Father's spirit, God is spirit. So there's so much more to it than just where do you go and what do you do in that tangible sense. It's just like you said, love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, spirit, strength. Anyways, it's very holistic, and I think sometimes we miss that part, that there's a lot to this, and it's more than just yes, Jesus loves me, this I know. It's like, yes, that's true, but he's the God with us, God Emmanuel. Jesus came. He's the God that met the woman, went out of his way, took the path that others, Jews, would not take to meet this woman at the time of the day. No one else would meet her. He was purposeful. It was intimate. It was personal. It's like, thank you, Lord, that you're a personal God. So it makes sense that he would go, I want you to interact with me personally, not from afar, not just intellectually. Intellect is important. Truth is important, but spirit is important as well.
Yeah, I was reading something. It was just like, and it's so cool when we get to just in Scripture experience the essence of who God truly is. Instead, as God is love, as God is light, God too is spirit, and He is with us and He is amongst us. And like, how often do we stay in that kind of surface level layer? That the woman at the well, I mean, Nicodemus, almost everyone Jesus talks to, they're at this surface level. The disciples, as we'll see next week, but then He's just ready to introduce to us this new dimension, this element of God. Very powerful. Did you have anything you want to add?
Well, it's both, right? Spirit and truth. It's not one without the other. And I think that's so important to remember, because we can't get hung up in one. Like, yes, truth, important, so important. But like you said, Michael, it's the Spirit of God. It's the loving kindness of God that brings us to repentance. And so keeping them together.
Yeah, you shared a quote with me. This is kind of off topic, but not really. Talking about sharing in truth and in love, but just doing one or the other. To share just truth is harsh, but to share just love, or
you just truth and love. You can't, much like spirit and truth, you can't have one without the other.
Yeah, too much of one is harsh. Too much of the other is a lie. But both of them together. Really cool quote, but I just butchered it. So. All right, now kind of going modern day, just worship, and I know we're gonna get into a little bit later. Just the idea of worship is just, it's a lifestyle. It is how we are showing God our love. But to actually look at the logistical aspect of worship being a part of the church service, Michael, I want to ask you this: like, why is musical worship specifically such an intricate part of our Sunday church services? And then kind of a follow-up question is, what do you, and I'd even be curious to hear your guys' thoughts, what do you guys say to people that are like, yeah, the musical word, like, that's not my thing. Like, I'll come in 15 minutes late. But I want to start with kind of when and why and how did that become a part of the modern church service?
Yeah, it's interesting using the word modern. I mean, yes, it is a part of church services today, but the reality is it's always been a part. So it's not a new invention. Anthony, we were talking earlier when we were setting up, he mentioned Exodus, and I'm like, dude, yeah, that's exactly it. Like in Exodus, I think it's 15. Yeah, so as soon as God's people are leaving Egypt, they're being delivered, it's one of the first songs recorded in Scripture, Song of Moses and Miriam. So it's like, what do? They cry out to God. They're delivered. They respond. I think we're created to be that way. It's like we're interacting, and God has created us to sing, make a joyful noise. I mean, it's all, I looked up, if you look up sing to the Lord, if you just look that up in the NIV, it's over 39 times it says sing to the Lord, sing to the Lord, sing to the Lord. So it's what God wants. It's pretty clear. So it's important to us. Now, different people are going to connect more with music than others, but this idea that would play a role in our life, and not even just on a Sunday, but again, the idea is worship in itself is not just a Sunday exercise, right? We know that it's meant to be who we are every day. And it's not just reading the word, it's not just prayer, but it's like sing to the Lord a new song. Express your heart to him. It's meant to be an interactive relationship. I think that's why a lot of times people get bummed in their faith. And you might hear somebody, a friend, maybe you had someone that said, yeah, I tried church for a while. It didn't work for me. When someone says that to me, I always ask follow-up questions to say, okay, fair enough. Tell me what tried church looked like for you. You know, did you just come to a service? Did you engage the living God? And did you become a worshiper to where your eyes were open to who he is and what he's done for you? Because if all you do is come to a church service, that's almost like going, well, I'm not really a sports fan. I just went to the game. Well, you're just going to rate it based on, well, was the stadium comfortable? Did you like the concession food?
What did it do for me, kind of thing?
Right. And what did it do for me is not our faith. It's not about us. It's all about the Lord and what he has done. And we give him glory for that. So in a sense, if it's all about him, then I'm not coming with this presupposition of like, well, what am I going to get out of it? And am I going to hear what my ears want to hear? It's almost like I've chosen to worship the Lord every day this week. And when I come on a weekend, this is icing on the cake. I'm just excited to be with God's people. This is a bonus. It's not going to let me down because God's not going to let me down because he hasn't all week long. And this is just the sprinkles on the icing on the cake. So.
Okay. Do you guys have any thoughts to that? It was very well said.
The only thought I would add with music being the center is that music is the divine art form that we see in Scripture, right? People might paint or dance in heaven. They don't talk about it, but everybody sings in heaven. Music is the universal language on earth. So it's the greatest tool to bring people together from every walk of life to engage in the same thing. It's awesome.
It's true.
Have you guys ever, just in your experiences with being a part of different churches, been a part of a church where in the church service, maybe they, for a season or even one Sunday, substituted musical worship for another form of like active worship with the fellowship? Have you guys seen, and what are some of those examples? Like, I don't know, dancing, but yeah.
Well, I can just think on a few different times in student ministry where maybe we were scheduled to have someone lead musical worship and maybe it didn't work out. But I remember one time, not too long ago, you said, okay, as our form of worship right now, we're going to pray.
Yeah.
And we're going to take some time and be in prayer together. And we're going to pray for these specific things. And I think that was such a good reminder for the students. Michael, kind of like what you were saying, like, there's so many forms of worship and we are worshipers. Like, our life is an act of worship. So like, you know, that's being at the store, having that conversation with someone, or being on a prayer walk, or, you know, feeling inspired by the Lord and painting something. Like, that looks so different. And so I just think that was such a good reminder for the kids and even for us of like, okay, it's okay if we don't have the guitar player here tonight.
Oh,
you know,
man.
this is still a moment where we can worship the Lord. And so, yeah, it was just really cool.
Yeah, the church service order pierced me. He was like, no, we need a guitar player. But then there's conviction. So
the Holy Spirit doesn't need a guitar player to show up.
Right.
I'm reminded by that.
And I want to stand on that for a few more minutes because I think that was like, I don't know, we're like revolutionary to me when I realized like I grew up worship. This was worship, you know, been going to church for a long time. Michael Bond's worship leader. But just like in our lives, there are different forms of worship. And so, well, that's a concept that maybe we are pretty familiar with and we understand that worship's far bigger. And you guys have hit on a few of them, but I kind of want to list them out for the listeners, for somebody that's maybe hearing it for the first time. When you look at like worshiping in our daily life and our weekly life, what would you say are some things that like practically that we could try and put in our lives that would be different forms of worship to God? And I know that's a very broad question. There's almost like you could get to a point where there's no wrong answer, but just practically, what would you guys say?
Well, a lot has to do with your heart and what your intention is. I mean, I think for each of us, we should do everything for the glory of God and put focus and attention on him. So, you know, my hope when I go home at night is, and I pray in the car before I go inside, you know, Lord, help me to serve my wife and my children. Help me to spend time and attention with them and help them to feel special, and help me to reflect you. You know, like I want my children to know God because he is present in my life, and that in my wife and I, we create a reality of God that is tangible, that they can't escape, that's just so real. So, I mean, yes, Scripture, there's tons of forms of, what worship and making, playing music, singing, praying, different postures, bowing, kneeling, clapping, raising of hands. I mean, there's so many things you can see that they're all biblical, but seeing someone on the side of the road that needs help and pulling over and showing them compassion. I mean, just going down the list, you can do all of that for the glory of God. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I just pulled up Colossians 3, 16 and 17 do a really good job of filling that out. I think it says, "Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing songs and hymns and spiritual songs with thankfulness in your hearts to God. And whatever you do in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him." I think that is, if you can put that mindset on everything, like in my relationship with my wife, even if we're having a discussion about something, I just try to put Jesus in the room with us while we're having that conversation. What am I saying to my wife? Is that something I would say in front of Jesus? Is that an acceptable thing? Would he be okay with that, right? In every interaction, just put Jesus there. Not what would Jesus do, because that's not fair. I can't live up to that example. But if he's there, am I doing something that he would go, right on, man, you nailed that?
Conflict resolution is a form of worship.
Oh, for real?
100%.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, because if you're in conflict with someone, somebody has to yield. Someone has to say, okay, I'm going to put you first. I'm going to humble
There's
myself.
surrender in there for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, Rach, I want to throw a question your way. So you've been a worship leader for a long time, and I'd be curious how being a worship leader, kind of in the sense of a church service leader, how that has transformed your perspective on worshiping the Lord in your daily life.
Yeah, I think something that Michael reminds us of often, just as like from a leadership standpoint, we can't take people somewhere that we haven't been before, right? And so that for me, just all the more importance of worshiping the Lord in my private life, because Sunday, I want that to be my overflow. I want that to be, I come to the table with the body of Christ and enjoy him. I don't want it to be from a place of like, my private worship or my spiritual life is lacking. Like, no, that's not to say there can't be hard seasons, or that's not to say there can't be difficult days, but even in that, I can be honest with the congregation and say, hey, this is what the Lord's put on my heart this week, like a little heavy, but I'm still going to worship. I'm still going to praise the Lord. And so I think for me, and I've been challenged by you two to do this, and just different groups, like life group, and people that I'm around, is like, if I'm going to be in leadership, I need to be taking the time to having that special, important relationship with the Lord myself before I have any business getting up in front of people. And so, yeah, I just think the Holy Spirit is just stressing upon me, or pressing upon me, just to put that relationship number one for me first. And I'm sure you guys would agree and say much of the same, but yeah, I mean, if we're going to be worship leaders, we, one, have to be worshipers first, and two, like, our walk with the Lord has to be top priority. So,
yeah. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Amen, sister.
Did you hear that from somebody, that you can't take some people a place where you haven't been yourself? Was that a Michael Bond original, or was
That's
that
not a Michael Bond
Paul?
original. I've heard it. No, I've heard it a couple other places. I know. And it's sometimes I've heard it said. I think Steve Shaw, former pastor at the Vineyard here in Grants Pass, said you can't give what you haven't got. And one time, our mutual friend Greg Dahl, who's still leads out at the Vineyard, one time he told me, he says, I can't lead someone to a place I haven't been. And I think that makes a lot of sense as a leader, and you think about as a shepherd. even literal shepherds, we're here to guide the sheep. So how do we know where to take the sheep if we don't know the land, lay the land? Where's the water? So they're thirsty. Where's the water? They're hungry. Where's the green grass? Where are the cliffs and the dangerous places? Like, we need to somehow press ahead. And I think that sometimes that's our struggle as worship leaders, is you want to feed off of and read where the people at, and sometimes lead based on what you sense in people. And yes, being sensitive to the people, 100% is a good thing. But I've also heard, that we're to be thermostats, not thermometers. As leaders, we're not just here to read the temperature of the room. No, we're here to try and set the temperature. As a teaching pastor is going to study the word, and he's going to present week in and week out. So I think worship leaders also, in a similar fashion, need to press in. Seek the Lord. Lord, for your body, what should we be singing this week? What scripture should we be reading this week? How should we be reflecting on you, listening to you, sharing with you? And that's important. But we have to be worshipers first, or it just doesn't. It's just faking it, going through the motions.
I think it's been fascinating as I've, just been more introduced into the worship culture, and, being in church myself, realizing that a great musician who's a Christian does not always translate into a powerful worship leader. And it can still obviously be good, and the Lord can use it, but there is the difference between somebody whose skill level's up here and somebody who just, they showed up on stage and they're worshiping the Lord, and it just so happens that we are here with them. Like, there's a huge difference. And yeah, it's just been very powerful, I think, to see that. Well, I got one more question for you guys, and I know for me, and they know it's coming, but I got a room full of worship leaders who I respect. So for me, I'm like, why not talk about Reckless Love? Listeners, if you're unfamiliar, there's a song out there that we talked about before.
Sing a piece of it.
I don't sing. You can pause right
Lies.
now. You can go Google Reckless Love. Probably the most controversial worship song since, as we talked about, Unforeseen Kiss for Sloppy Wet Kiss with How He Loves.
Yep.
Yeah. But I do want to talk about this because I think there's a lot of passion from both sides. So, quick synopsis for you listeners, if you didn't stop and go listen to it. Side A, reckless is not a way that you should describe God's heart, because that's a very negative connotation. The other side, I guess side B, or just, the side that's in favor of it, says, well, it can totally make sense when you kind of maybe realize that we can run from him in a reckless sense, and he is there chasing right after us. He's never going to leave us. There's two sides, in favor and against. And what I kind of want to ask you guys, not necessarily to take sides and throw rocks at the other, but what are your guys' thoughts as worship
That was never
leaders?
the plan, right? You guys didn't bring rocks? I didn't.
No, we don't want rocks. I would love just to give the listeners just a good synopsis of what three worship leaders think of this song. So putting it on the table for you guys, and then even, do you personally, as personal as you want to get, think it's an accurate display of God's heart?
So I think it's really interesting that both the songs in question here are about God's love, because God's love is perfect. We have no capability of grasping its depths, its width. We cannot understand it. So it doesn't surprise me that love is the context in which both of these things happen. But going back to Spirit and Truth, when you really look at the lyrics of it, it doesn't say, from our perspective, the love of God would seem reckless, right? The song says that it is the reckless love of God. So that's defining God's love as reckless. And when you look at the definitions, the words used to describe God, the Alpha, the Omega, the great I am, the Messiah, all this, reckless doesn't fit in that mold at all. So then for me, that becomes then, are we worshiping in truth, or are we worshiping in our perceived concept of truth? And then is that right? And by John 4, that is totally incorrect. So I know a lot of people Like Tyler led it a few weeks ago, and he changed it to selfless. Right. Some people say perfect, but and even then, aside from that, you have the congregation. So Andy led it at Redwood last week, and he chose to sing the word reckless. Not a single person in that room sang reckless. I was sitting in the congregation. I heard 3 different things. Easy. I heard perfect. I heard selfless. I heard this. So now we have this confusion in the room of what is it, what isn't it. So as a worship leader, for me, I have to decide, is this something my congregation's connecting with? If no, then I'm not serving my body by leading this song. I'm leading it because I want to. And if I'm leading worship from a selfish perspective, I've missed the whole point. So for me, this song is not in my rotation at all. I just avoid it.
Okay.
Rachel, what do you think?
So yeah, I've heard many different thoughts, arguments, opinions about this song. It's funny. It's not in my rotation either, and I can't decide if that's intentional or not. I mean, when I came into Rogue River, you kind of try and learn the campus, learn the songs they like, and then just, I've never let it. But when I looked up, when Tim asked the question, and I was kind of doing just some of my own research, my own thoughts on it, the definition I found that I thought maybe could work with the song of Reckless is without care or concern for consequence. And I think of the story about the shepherd leaving the 99 for the one, and how we've all taken a place being the one. It's not that, I think, if I'm just putting myself in the songwriter's shoes, maybe he would think this, maybe. Corey, if you're listening, confirm or deny.
He's probably not listening, but if you
probably
are.
Not. But I guess in that definition of reckless in the story, did he not care, have concern about the other 99 for the one? That's not so much how I interpret the lyrics, more as he cares so much about the one. I'm kind of bummed personally that we get so hung up on the word reckless, because I see it. I see what you're saying 100%. I get it. Like, I think of the term, I think of the word reckless, and I think of connotations I've experienced with reckless people, or people have used reckless words, or, heck, when I've been reckless, it hasn't been good. So I get that connotation 100%. But the other lyrics in the song to me are awesome. Like, there's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. Because I can think of times, and sorry if I get emotional, where I've been that one and God has just chased me down. Man, so powerful. So I don't know if I'm really answering the question well. I'm maybe a little more Switzerland about it. I like, no, truly, like, I totally, like, part of me is like, Corey, why didn't you just put selfless? It works, it totally works. But then also, like, here we are talking about it. We're dialoguing about it. Maybe that's the point. I don't know. But I personally don't have it in my rotation. Not to say I wouldn't sing it out loud, but yeah, I have mixed feelings on it for sure.
Yeah, and before Michael speaks to it, playing devil's advocate. So behind Nothing But the Blood, it's probably one of the most powerful worship songs, in my opinion, to me. Again, I'm the non-musical person. And where you might have spoke to it is I am receiving the song from my perception. But what it tells me is that Jesus is willing to match, and if not exceed, the energy that I try and run away from him, that he's going to match that. Like I've used this example before. As a kid, there's friends or whatever, and they would always try to chase me around. And when they caught me, they would punch me in the arm, beat me up, whatever, spit on my face. We're not digging into my childhood, but stuff like that. So what did I do?
Ouch.
I tried to find ways in which I could go that they would not. So if I'm running around the yard, they're going to do that all day. If I ran through blackberries, they're not going through the blackberries. If I tried to run up on the roof, they're not going on the roof. All that to say, it's so powerful to me knowing that if I ever am in a spirit where I'm running from the Lord, every time I look over my shoulder, he is going to be there with me. Now, again, I think what I'm doing is wading into what you talked about our perception of spirit and truth, and that's dangerous. But I don't know. It is such a powerful description. And I think of movies where there's a group and someone's trying to like leave the group and they go and leave and they look and then the person followed them and they're like, what are you doing? You followed me. You're stupid. And it's like, well, I care about you. So that's my opinion. I'm for it. I'm in the for camp. However, it's nothing. I don't know.
I would validate your claim, but I would also distinction between congressional song where we have mixed feelings on a controversial song. I feel like it's an inappropriate space. If you connect with it on that level, that's awesome. If God's using the song for you personally, that's superb.
Right.
But yeah, my speech was more towards a congressional.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Like if I was the pastor of a church and you were the worship leader and you felt the way you did about the song and I felt the way I did, I would defer to you and how you felt. That I would not say you have to sing this because I feel about it. But for me, when the worship leader is singing Selfless, in my heart, I'm crying Reckless. Like, but yeah, no, totally. Like I would never force the song, but that's just it paints a very powerful personal picture.
I kind of want to hear your thought, and then I want to say my thought.
So I hear all three of you. I land more where Andrew's at. I'm a songwriter, and words matter. So what's hard about this song is that, like you said, it's awesome. Like it's been so popular. It's awesome. Other than the word reckless, it's awesome. And so as a songwriter, I tend to be tough on other songwriters because my thought is, why did you do this to us, songwriter? Seriously, why did you? All you had to do is just, because what I hear people saying is, but if you define it this way, and my whole thing is,
then define it that way.
No, I don't like it because it's like, no, the English, every language, words have meaning, and what is the meaning? So here I go to Merriam-Webster since 1828. Reckless is defined as marked by a lack of proper caution. Is God's love marked by a lack of proper caution? Nope. Careless of consequences. Is God's love careless of consequences? Nope. Second definition, irresponsible. No. So God is sovereign. He knows exactly what he's doing. So to me, when you try and make this fit and have to tweak it, and everybody I hear that's for it has to somehow tweak it, well, but just define it this way, or they'll say, oh, it's poetic. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. No offense to anybody that loves it, but it's like, words have meaning. So my whole wish and desire would have just been, pick a word that everyone can get behind. Because for congregational singing, it's like, man, I want songs that everyone can sing. So it's our charge to pick songs that are doctrinally accurate and that people can get behind and sing. So this song's bummed me out because I want to be able to sing it. And I'm just like, bro, there's so many other words. You could have chosen another word, and then it would have been, if it was this level of hit, it would have become the next How Great Thou Art, because it is written so well. The melodies are good. Like, it's strong musically, it's strong lyrically, except I do get thrown because to worship in spirit and truth, I can't lie against myself. And I know what reckless means. So people say, well, dude, just like, no, I know what it means. So I can't sing in truth if I know it means something else. Like, God's love is not that. And what you bring up is huge. We're not to lead our congregation into confusion. So, and I respect Tyler and others that will sub out a word. But then I, as a songwriter, I don't really like that, because I wouldn't want someone to take my song and sing different lyrics. That's kind of like they're editing it. That makes me feel kind of eh. So overall, I've just kind of stayed away from it. So it's not in my rotation. I wish it could be, but I can't turn my brain off. Words have meaning. And so that's part of the challenge for artists, is to create a song, especially if it's for congregational application, that is accurate, that's spiritually correct, that's theologically correct. And then we're responsible to lead our people into greater truth as shepherds of worship. So that's synopsis of why I don't sing it.
Okay.
And you're so right. If that word had been changed, it'd be like my favorite worship song of all time.
Epic.
It's so flawless everywhere else.
For all the reasons you just said, because it evokes that emotion. It's true that he runs after us no matter. So even like in your thing, that's exactly what he does. The word to describe it, though, isn't reckless.
Right.
If you'd be like, it's that love that goes the distance. It's that love that no matter where we've been, he's there. He'll go through the blackberry bushes. He'll jump off the roof. But he doesn't do it reckless or carelessly. he knows what he's doing. God knew what he was doing. He knew what it would cost when Jesus went to the cross. I don't want to do anything to diminish that. Like to diminish. Anyways, sorry, getting all preachy.
And when I said, oh, then just change the word or sing it, or I said something.
Define it.
Yeah. Like when I hear selfless, I'm like, why couldn't we just choose that one? Or,
Right.
you look up like you're looking up Webster. I looked up, the definition of reckless too, and all these other words come up that could connect, or is that synonym?
Yeah.
Right.
Synonyms.
Sorry, I teach first grade. But I'm like, why? Sorry.
That's synonyms a fourth grade word.
Cinnamon rolls. But when I'm looking up that, I'm like, and that's what I mean. Like, why can't you just choose that one, or
totally.
just choose selfless then? And I was gonna say I appreciate.
Steadfast.
Yeah, I appreciate when Tyler did change it. He kind of had that shepherding moment of like, hey, this is why we're gonna sub out selfless, and this is why. And I really, like the artist in me is kind of like, that's not the word, or that's
Right.
not how he wrote it, like in honoring him. But I do appreciate that,
Yes,
because
for
for
sure.
me, I think there's enough hot water around it where I'm like, you know what, it's not even worth it. Like if it's gonna cause someone to stumble, or it's just, and that's not to say I couldn't tag a bridge every now and again, but
Totally.
it's a bummer, because
Hit that
you
bridge.
you don't want to
just the bridge.
you don't want to do that, knowing that it's so, at least I don't personally feel like it's good to do something knowing it's such a
Right.
mixed pot.
Well, and if Tim Hughes, songwriter, wrote "Here I Am to Worship" and "Beautiful One" and tons of different songs over the years. He made a comment one time. I heard him in a seminar. He was saying, if it takes more than 10 to 20 seconds for you to unpack a song to your congregational member that asks a question,
Yeah, probably not.
it's probably not clear enough. So I do tend to stay away from the songs that are just like, I just can't give someone a really, I can't unpack that quickly. And heard another a theologian professor was talking one time on another blog about this song, and he's like, probably in all of history, there's never been more amazing songs to choose from on a Sunday. So choose one of the other 50 billion that are out there online. Like you don't need to get hung up on reckless love. It's like, if it doesn't work for you, you just choose something else. So luckily, it's not like, his point was, you don't have to fight to make it work. There's so many other good songs.
Yeah.
Or you can, like I do that in sets. I know you guys do too. Sometimes you could just go, I'm gonna sing just the bridge, because I believe in the bridge. I get behind that. Or I'm gonna sing just this verse, and I'm gonna read a scripture. But we have to own it. It has to be, someone actually came up, it really touched my heart, came up to my wife and I last Saturday night after our worship time. And she said, you guys really believe this. This is real for you when you lead worship. And I said, yeah, it is. We're trying to just, these things are going on in our life, and we're going to trust the Lord. And so when we sing the goodness of God, we mean it. We believe it, and we're trusting the Lord even when we don't see all the answers. So it's critical that whatever we lead, we believe it. We can back it up. We can support it. And I always think that when we pick songs, you got to think to yourself, if I choose this song and someone comes up and asks me about it after, I have to be able to defend it. If I can't, I shouldn't do the song.
It's a good word from all of you guys. I appreciate that.
You can still sing it though.
Oh,
Tim.
yeah, no, I do. And I appreciate your guys. I mean, I am not a worship leader, and I appreciate your guys' heart as shepherds in that realm. It's definitely a song where I'm in the office by myself. I will
bro.
play it, and I will rip it.
Call Matt Comby, have him sing it to you over the speakerphone.
Yeah, that's actually what I do. Just have him sing it. So yeah, but with that being said, we're kind of wrapping up here. And you guys see some books around here. I asked these guys for resources. Just if you guys are more interested in just kind of the heart of worship or worship in general, I see that you guys have some books here. So, Rach, why don't we start with you? What do you got?
Well, I have a few books, just ones that I have totally blessing me right now because I'm reading. Michael actually has us kind of doing this one as a book club. It's called The Reset, Returning to the Heart of Worship and Life of Undivided Devotion. And I think the biggest thing I'm getting out of it right now is just all aspects of our life are worship. It's not just singing on a Sunday. That's a part of it, but it's not the only part, and resetting our minds and focus. And then I love the Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. I'm doing the day-by-day devotional right now, but the Emotionally Healthy Leader is really what I love. And it's all about just looking within. How can we be our most mature emotional selves? Because I think that's where our worship and our service is going to flow out of. So, yeah. Thank you, Pete Scazzaro.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a big book reader. So I haven't really read any books on worship that I really particularly gravitate towards. What I find inspires the most worship in me is books about God. Like Randy Alcorn's Heaven is a really great example of something that just makes you go, wow, something that freaks you out to a truth of who God is. That's always going to get me going.
Okay, appreciate that.
Yeah, a couple books. One I just started. It's called Transforming Worship by Rory Noland. It's super, super good, and it's his desire to combine the worship service with spiritual formation and have more elements in the service that lend themselves towards spiritual formation. It's really, really good. There's a song by a friend, Dwayne Moore, a book called Pure Praise. I've probably gone through it 8 times. I'd recommend anyone in our church go through it. It's not necessarily for worship leaders. It's for cultivating the heart of a worshiper. And it's a Bible study. You could do it by yourself. You can do it in a small group. I use it with worship leadership training all the time. So, so good to just help you grow in worship. And then, yeah, like Rachel said, the book, actually the 3 of us are going through right now, called The Reset by worship leader, songwriter Jeremy Riddle. Really, really good. And like the subtitle, it's The Reset, Returning to the Heart of Worship and a Life of Undivided Devotion. Like that's so important. And I appreciate what you said, Andrew. I think that's truth when you talk about, I'm just trying to see God more greatly, and Matt Redman has a song lyric from a song he wrote years ago that said, worship starts with seeing you. Our hearts respond to your revelation. So yeah, whether it's studying heaven or reading God's holiness, the greater God becomes in your eyes, the more you respond in worship, because you understand who it is we're singing to. That's pretty important. And people need to know that. We all need to know that. Otherwise, are we worshiping in truth if we don't really understand who we worship? So that's powerful.
Yeah, that was powerful. Guys, any final thoughts? I truly appreciate you guys and even our other worship leaders. I think of Brian, Tyler, Michelle, other people that just devote their time. One thing I was thinking of, you guys are just, the heart of what you're saying is that it is just like, yeah, you guys are striving to know God more and more in your daily life. And then on Sunday or Saturday night, we're just blessed by your worship to him, and you guys would do that whether we were there or not. And I just like it. There are sad times where there's a worship leader, not necessarily have I experienced that at River Valley a lot, but where it almost seems a little foreign to them. And it's like, okay, this is maybe more of a hobby or something right now. But I feel like when I am just blessed by the worship here at River Valley, it is people that are just truly, like you said, it's the overflow of people that are obviously chasing after the Lord day in and day out. And so I appreciate you guys. And I can attest, living with Rachel, that the Rachel you see on stage as she's worship leading is the same Rachel we get at home, that loves our daughter, that hangs out around the house. So yeah, just truly blessed by you guys and what you guys do. So listeners, I hope you enjoyed getting into the mind of worship leaders. If you were kind of excited about maybe more digging into the woman at the well, because this is a really powerful passage, I believe I'm going to hop more into that next week with Tyler, Nat, and maybe Tawny as well. But I just really wanted to take this opportunity to pick your guys' brains a little bit. So thank you guys.
Thank you, man.
Listeners, we'll catch you next week.